Welcome to this next episode of YouTube, where the snow is arriving and may be here to stay. Temperatures are cooling down, where we're now getting daytime highs right around freezing or below freezing, and so that means this last batch of snow, which actually dropped about 3 or 4 inches over the night, is giving a nice change to the wolf exhibit, and it certainly is stimulating wolf behavior. Here Luna is greeting Aiden while Aiden is in a subordinate posture with one of the wolf care staff. Aiden's very relaxed and having a really good transition into the winter time. Has a little bit of moments where Aiden has a few issues where the yearlings are acting a little bit excited, and certainly Jospar and Wrestle like they were pup mates. But for the most part, he's got a pretty good control of the pack, and they seem to respect him without too much issues. As we move into the winter here, obviously there's going to be various things that are different than in the summertime, and one of them seems to be the space provided by the empty pond. That space gives them a lot of stimulus for wrestling and playing and jumping, and again, the yearlings are reverting back to a lot of their pup days of constant wrestling. It seems like when they're up, that's what they do, is Jospar and wrestle, and certainly we suspect as they get closer to 2-year-olds and have more adult-like behavior, that will decline. But one thing, again, we see is Luna is an instigator in most of this. She's extremely active, extremely agile, and has the ability to, again, interact quite well with those 3 males that are all larger than she is. And she will typically Jospar with bolts, but there are times when she is in a dominant posture towards Denali, and who is a much larger wolf than she is. So you can see Aiden in the foreground here. He's, kind of checking it out. It typically, if there's wrestling, jaw-sparring, growling kind of things, it's typically Bolts, Luna, and Denali. Aiden's not usually involved in it. Aiden just kind of goes about his business. But if there is a situation that Aiden deems getting a little bit too excited, or certainly maybe showing a little bit more dominance than he cares for from Denali, Bolts, or Luna, he will definitely put an end to it. So he's a strong pack leader, but he's not an overt, always controlling pack leader, and that's a lot like Shadow. And that Shadow's reign as a pack leader lasted for 8 years, and so we hope the same is true for Aiden. It's definitely going to be an interesting dynamics. We always know that the time between 1 year and 2 years of age is the most intensity in a wolf exhibit, and that's been our previous experience over the last quarter of a century that we've been working with wolves here. So the stimulus of the pond, like I said, I did discover after I drained it there was a few minnows that had survived over the summer, and some of those obviously didn't survive the draining. Luna ate some of them. Luna rolled on most of them, and digging through the bottom of the pond for them. But I do, out of all the situations that are concerning me the most here, it is obviously the landscape, the rocks, the chasing, the constant activity that Luna does. She is the most actively engaging pack member that we have, meaning that the other wolves are pretty content to kind of lay around, other than Bolts. Bolts gets a little active as well, but Luna is the one that's stalking, that's chasing, that's always watching for things and seeing where the other pack members are and watching them come down the hill and going into a stock posture. And so obviously when you're running around a lot of these rocks and logs and things, that's concerning for any wolf, much less a wolf with a mobility disability. So we are keeping an eye on that. We're actually in consult with some new possible nutritional things that we're going to do specifically for Luna. But she's doing great. I mean, we don't, we ever know what to expect from her. We continue to monitor everything that we can. We continue to give her extra vitamins, extra doses of food, and certainly are always concerned for her well-being as the smallest pack member. But she does start a lot of things, and so at some point we're working on that little social awkwardness that seems to be inherent Luna behavior. But fortunately for her, she's got Denali, who is the biggest pack member that we have, but the most tolerant pack member that we have. And he kind of takes it in stride. So here's Luna going to try to do a ride up on Denali. and that doesn't work out so well. He's a little tall, but she's definitely the focal point of activity. And Bolts is one of the biggest stimuli for her. She has a pup relationship with Bolts, even though they're not related. They grew up together, and even though they grew up in the weirdest of circumstances, where Luna was isolated pretty much all summer long and managed for an injury and tried to reduce any risk of wrestling or roughhousing, they are seeming to make up for lost time. They're wrestling and roughhousing just like they would have been if they were pups that were allowed to do this. And so we're seeing a lot of that. We're watching for tail postures. Obviously, the higher the tail, the more intent of the interaction. We're also watching how the rest of the pack members read it. Denali really could care less what those two juveniles are doing as long as they're not doing it to him. And so we always watch how Denali's the, swinging tail, always kind of greeting. You notice as Aiden walks by there, he immediately drops his tail into a subordinate posture. He respects Aiden as a pack leader. He has no interest in being a pack leader. I think his interest doesn't care if he's number 2 or number 3 male, as long as he's not the focal point of these two jaw sparring. So that's kind of what we're seeing. The snow brings a lot of scent and certainly covers up some things that they like to dig. And Luna loves to scent roll. The only problem is when you're a dominant pack member and you're in a subordinate posture from scent rolling, you are the focal point of other wolves. So Luna likes to scent roll, but it puts her in a vulnerable spot. And so we do see a little bit of dominance, and she gets so possessive over things that she's scent rolling or things that she's guarding or feeding on, etc. But it does put her in a little bit of a vulnerable state, and sometimes they'll take advantage over here. And Denali's kind of doing a wide circle, and Aiden comes over, and Aiden did a little bit of a quick grab bite on her, and then did a inguinal presentation. Luna just laid there and allowed him to sniff, and completely relaxed. And Bolts tried to do a little ride up, and all it took was one direct stare from Aiden, and Bolts back on. So over in Grizzer's enclosure, we actually gave him a little bit of a treat. We brought in a new staff person who's been doing meds for him, and Grizzer seemed to take a shine to her, so we decided to incorporate her into Grizzer's enclosure. And we start off by new people doing carrying the scat bucket, collecting scat, not interacting with the wolves. We condition the wolves to avoid the scat bucket by not giving them any eye contact, not vocalizing to them, not looking at them. When they're carrying the scat bucket, you ignore the wolves, and the wolves have learned to ignore people. And what you see here is Grizzer comes around. Oh, there's a scat bucket. He instantly stops. He understands it. Probably stops a little bit too quick. Maybe jarred his brain a little there, having to shake it off. But they know. I mean, that's what we do from the time that they're pups. We condition them to accept the fact that when we have tools in our hands, including the scat bucket, you do not interact, and that's a very critical management tool that we use. That's how we get new people into the enclosure, and Grizzer was very excited about this particular person. He wanted to greet her, but she was collecting scat, and he had to wait. And so, of course, his running around, which he hasn't done the Grizzer 500 for a while, but his running around or stimulated activity in the exhibit pack as well as activity in retirement. And so he certainly had a good bout of interaction there. Of course, a lot of running means that you need to rest a little bit, and he, after the scat was done, we had set out the scat bucket, and so the person was available to greet. But when I have new people as a level 3 handler, it's my job to make sure that the staff are kind of protected. So I was doing a little bit more assertive posturing over Grizzer, trying to make him submit and to be in a subordinate posture before I would allow him to greet the new person. He was a little bit too excited. So I'm filming this, and he's actually getting a little frustrated because he wants me to interact. He's in a subordinate posture. He's doing all the right moves. He's doing what I wanted him to do, but I'm also running the camera, so it's hard to reach my arm down and interact with him. So he got a little bit excited, and he actually gets up and does another post-relaxation racing around. But eventually we let him meet the new staff person. He got a little, typical wolf, wanted to investigate, had a new set of keys that he possibly could take, checked out a new coat that he hadn't seen before, but overall did really good and was extremely excited to see the staff person. So it's always great for us. We know it's not the best situation for Grizzer to be alone, but anything that we can do for the human component to make his life more enriching, we will do. In retirement, we didn't get a lot of footage this week. If there's any wolves here that love winter, it is the Arctic wolves. This is Malik actually investigating me, and you can kind of see that little bit of that cowlick in the middle of his face. And also you make note of the Arctic wolves, who have a much shorter and more rounded ear postures that obviously are better for staying warm in colder environments. And so we leave it with Shadow on top of the den. It didn't get any howling, but certainly in a regal position as the snow falls there. I thought I would end this YouTube with a reminder that Thursday, November 14th, is Give to the Max Day. And here in Minnesota, every donation you make gives your favorite nonprofits and schools the chance to win even more money. There's hundreds of organizations that'll be involved in the Give to the Max Day, and we welcome the support to donate to the International Wolf Center to support our education and outreach programs, and obviously including our ambassador wolves. Just a few points of interest about Give to the Max Day. Your donation will be doubled. All gifts received will be matched up to $31,000 here at the center. You can donate securely online on your computer, tablet, or cell phone. If you can't donate on the November 14th, you can schedule your donation in advance. You can donate multiple times on November 14th, and a benefit of doing that is there'll be a golden ticket worth $1,000 drawn every hour to be added to a donor's favorite nonprofit. Anyone who donates a total of $100 or more, and you may be eligible to win a Wolf Den prize package valued at $100. And again, all donations are tax deductible and will be used to support the International Wolf Center. And there is an additional $10,000 supersized golden ticket that'll be awarded at 11:59 p.m. on November 14th. So I hope you'll join us as we make tracks to our computer, put on a pot of coffee, and watch the event unfold on the Give to the Max Day, and always appreciate any resources to help us meet our mission of teaching the world about wolves. Thanks again, and we'll see you next week.